Hello and welcome to this launch webinar for the Nordic Swan Ecolabel. We are today going to talk about the new criteria for cosmetic products, which has been released a few weeks ago. And we're very happy that so many contendants has joined the meeting today. And we look forward to a few hours here where we'll go through the criteria and present all the new things in this area of products. We are today joining with a team of hostess, and I'll just share the presentation here. As I was just telling about, there's some practical information. This webinar will be recorded, and also you have the possibility to ask questions. You can do that in the chat window during the webinar, and we will pick up and collect the answers for those when we end one chapter of the presentation. If you experience technical issues, normally it is in your end of the transmission. So please turn your video on if you have a lack of pictures, and you can also try to move closer to your Wi-Fi router. Afterwards, we will share this presentation and other materials on an email, which will link into our webpage where you can download all the presentation material. Okay. Well, the agenda today, after this little messy welcome, we will go on and tell you a little bit about the Nordic Swan Ecolabel. What is a Nordic Swan Ecolabel cosmetic product? What is new in the new criteria generation 4, and how you can apply for renewal of existing certified products, and how you can apply for certification of new products. The estimated end time of this webinar will be 11:45, so this is the target anyway. I'll just introduce you to a little background information about the Nordic Swan Ecolabel, well knowing that some of you might have a pretty good knowledge about the Ecolabel. I will just go through it as well. As many of you might know, this is the official Ecolabel of the Nordics. It's been running for more than 30 years, and it's been in charge of the Nordic Council of Ministers. We are a non-profit organization, so we work out of no commercial issues, and each of the 5 countries has a secretary which is responsible for the one country's activities. This is also where the secretary meets for the board of decision on criteria and fees. So that would be a cross-border decision to make those new criteria. Finally, we are a member of the Global Ecolabel Network, GEN, which is a quality stamp for us and one we are very proud of. More about the Nordic Swan Ecolabel, as I said, is more than 30 years old, and the basic topic and the main course about this is to promote more environmental sustainable products and consumption. And the objective is really to make this easy for the consumers to choose products that are among the best for the environment. So they should only be looking for the Ecolabel and not understanding all the messy small stuff standing on the back of the products. So currently we are actually one of the world's toughest and most ambitious Ecolabels, and we strain to continue that path. We are based on life cycle approach, so our criteria will go through a whole of the life cycle of the products. And also, very important, the requirements are unique for each product group. Finally, the requirements are adjusted on an ongoing basis. Normally, we run every 4 or 5 years for a new criteria to be released. So this is one of those landmarks that we like to promote, like today. And this is the generation 4 that we will launch to you. Very important for us is to also tell you that Nordic Swan Ecolabel is a Type 1 Ecolabel under ISO 14024. This means that it's a voluntary label. It's based on life cycles considerations. It is holistic and strict environmental requirements. The requirements are developed in full transparency. We have a hearing process with which also many of you have been involved in this product launch. As I said, the requirements are revised every 5th year, and we are an independent third-party certification. So there's a lot of transparency and a lot of independency in this this Nordic Swan Ecolabel. Very quick introduction to the life cycle. Most of you are probably working with this approach in your everyday, but we primarily focus on the more environmental sustainable resource consumption. We also look at the impact on the climate and the use of harmful chemicals. Also, the biodiversity is very important for us, and the conservation of that is of importance to the whole world. So the requirements are continuously assessed and revised, and the licenses have a set time limit, and the company must continually improve the products. So really what this slide says is that we assess all the life cycle elements and look for where we can do the most and more impressive impact to the environment. This is just a very brief introduction to the criteria development process. It's very complex, and as you can see, it lasts for years. But what it really is important for you to understand is that you have an influence in this. And we are very happy that many of you have contributed to the hearing process with all your knowledge and your experience in this area. So I don't know if there's any question at this moment. Otherwise, we'll just move on. Okay. My name is Enrico, as I said, and I'm working in the marketing department in the Nordic Swan Ecolabel department in Denmark. And I have taken some market insights to you today so that you can get an impression about how the consumers see both the category of cosmetics and also how they see the Nordic Swan Ecolabel as an ecolabel. Well, first, we have a very high awareness. 97% of all the Nordic consumers are familiar with the Nordic Swan Ecolabel. We're also very proud to say that 83% of those who know the label also trust the Nordic Swan Ecolabel. And also very, very important that 60% looks for the Nordic Swan Ecolabel when choosing between products. So this is very strong figures that you can use in your business and take advantage of. Since we do a lot of insights, we also ask 4,500 consumers in the Nordic countries some questions in regarding to the ecolabel and especially in regard to the cosmetic group. So one of the questions we asked was, do consumers find it important to choose environmentally friendly beauty and hygiene products? Well, yes. 77% of those who are interested in beauty and hygiene find it important to choose environmental friendly beauty and hygiene products. So very strong figures. We can also see that depending on which country we look into, there's some variation in this result. And also on the next coming slides, I will have these figures, but I've been hiding them for you because it will take all day to present those. So they will be in the print copy that you can download afterwards. So this is just for your knowledge. So another question we asked was, are consumers concerned about hazardous substances in beauty and hygiene products? Well, again, yes, 76% of those who answered and who are interested in beauty and hygiene products are concerned about avoiding hazardous substances when shopping beauty and hygiene products. We also ask, do consumers find it difficult to know whether beauty and hygiene products contain hazardous substances? And again, the figure is very high. 73% of those who are interested in beauty and hygiene products find it difficult to know whether beauty and hygiene products contain hazardous substances to health and the environment. Again, we ask them, do consumers find it challenging to find good environmental choices within beauty and hygiene products? And more than 50% of those answered yes. Of those who are interested, they find it hard to find environmental better choices within beauty and hygiene products. Do consumers choose beauty and hygiene products certified with the Nordic Swan Ecolabel? This is very essential for us, of course. And we're very happy that 81% of those who find beauty and hygiene relevant and are aware of Nordic Swan Ecolabel alternatives, they choose it regularly. Would consumers choose a Nordic Swan Ecolabel alternative if available when shopping? 87% of those who are interested in beauty and hygiene would rather choose a Nordic Swan Ecolabel product if available. So very strong figures. And finally, are consumers willing to pay? That's very interesting. Pay more for beauty and hygiene products certified with a Nordic Swan Ecolabel? And here's amazingly, like 63% of those who answered, they said that they were actually willing to pay more for beauty and hygiene products who were certified with the Nordic Swan Ecolabel. So altogether, this gives you a very strong market and marketing platform to go to your customers with. And you can say, why become certified with the Nordic Swan Ecolabel? 1, it supports your green transition and product development. 2, it strengthens your competitiveness. 3, it strengthens your marketing and communication. 4, meets strict environmental requirements. And 5, strengthen your profile as an attractive workplace, attracting new workers and employees. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them, and then we'll of course answer them on the way. Otherwise, I will ask my colleague Lisa now to take the next chapter.
Okay, so this is just like overall about Nordic Swan Ecolabel cosmetic products. They meet strict requirements throughout its life cycle, and they have a lower environmental and health impacts, which is achieved by very strict requirement for harmful chemicals. And furthermore, the product also meets requirements for raw materials and contributes to a more circular economy through requirements for packaging. So this product group includes a lot of different cosmetic products: lotions, sunscreens, soap, shampoo, conditioner, makeup, and all other products covered by the EU cosmetics regulation. And then there are some other products that could be certified. Wet wipes are included as well. And then some product types which are outside of the cosmetics regulation, that is animal care products, sex lubricants, and now also medical lubricants. And then I also want to note that products that are covered by the EU biocidal regulation cannot be certified with the Nordic Swan Ecolabel. So this was just an overview. So now we are going to talk about the new requirements for cosmetics products, the new generation 4. And first, I want to thank you all for joining this webinar. It's nice to see so many people, and also special thanks to those of you who sent in consultation comments. It has taken a long time for Maria and me to go through it all, and we have continued the revision work for a good while after the consultation and until November this year, where the criteria were adopted. Today, we will go through all the significant changes compared to Generation 3. And I should perhaps say that we will not go through all requirements and we will not go through all details because we cannot do that within the time frame we have today. So to get the full overview of the new requirements, you have to look into the criteria if you have not already done so. I will start with the chemical requirements and the requirements for specific products, and then my colleague Maria will go through the new packaging requirements. So first is the chemical requirements. The first requirement is about renewable raw materials, and we have in the last generation, generation 3, we had a policy about renewable raw materials, and this is now replaced by a new requirement of a supply chain policy and a supplier code of conduct. The supply chain policy reflects the requirements and responsibility for sourcing of raw materials. It must describe how the company ensures that human rights are respected and that legislation is complied with, and also take biodiversity and deforestation risk into consideration. The supplier code of conduct defines and describes what is expected and required of all suppliers in the supply chain. This new requirement is based on coming EU legislation from the Due Diligence Directive and forest deforestation legislation. Therefore, the requirement is expected to be required by legislation in coming years. We have no requirements on minimum content of renewables, but if raw materials based on palm oil or palm kernel oil is used, the oil must be RSPO certified with traceability level, mass balance, or higher. Then we have the list of excluded classifications. We still have CMR and respiratory or skin sensitizers, but we have now added the new EUH hazard classes for endocrine disruptors, PBT, VP, VB, and PMT, VP, VM. And PMT stands for persistent, mobile, and toxic, and it's a group of substances that have potential harmful effects on drinking water and groundwater quality. And PFAS is one example of a PMT substance. For products that can be partially ingested, such as lip products, toothpaste, oral hygiene products, and nipple cream, ingoing substances with acute tox 1 and 2, H300, are not allowed. These are substances that can cause serious health damage if ingested. In addition, it has been decided to ban substances that are H410 classified with an M factor above 1, and these are substances which are the most harmful to the aquatic environment. This is expected to mostly, or maybe only, affect perfume raw materials. It will prevent the use of perfumes that contain ingredients that are H410 classified with an M factor of 10 or more. And then I just want to make another important note on this requirements. Unfortunately, a mistake has come into the raw material appendix 2 during the publication process. So there are some questions that are missing in this appendix, and it's question about CMR classifications H340, 41, 50, and 51. We are going to fix that, so there will be an updated appendix published shortly. But please wait a couple of weeks to start filling out this new appendix because these questions are missing. Then we have the microplastics requirement. This is now in a separate requirement. It has changed since generation 3 and also since the consultation proposal. In the consultation proposal, raw materials were not covered. However, in collaboration with our internal microplastics expert group, we have continued to work on the requirements after the consultation, and we concluded that we must also ban the substances that are microplastics in the raw material, but are not microplastics in the products. And this is due to several things. Firstly, there is no recognized test method to document that these kind of raw materials actually changes enough so that they are no longer microplastics in the products. the result will depend on the test method, and it will also depend on the recipe. So it's really difficult to document. In addition to this, we are concerned that the substances can again become microplastics when they are released into the sea or in a towel, for example. And finally, the definition in the new REACH restriction is also at raw material level. Therefore, it's now specified in the requirement that the microplastics prohibition applies to both substances in the products and to the raw materials themselves. So the new definition is synthetic polymers that are solid particles or build a continuous surface coating on particles, and at least 1% must be below 5 millimeters in all dimensions, or the length must be below 15 millimeters, and then the length to diameter ratio is greater than 3. And then there are some polymers that are excluded. It's natural polymers, it's polymers that are readily or inherently biodegradable, and it's polymers that have a solubility greater than 2 grams per liter, and then it's polymers that do not contain carbon atoms in the chemical structure. We want to limit the use of microplastics as much as possible and stay ahead of the legislation, and we are concerned about the consequences when microplastics are released into the environment, for example, through bathing or showering or washing towels or clothes with cosmetic products on them. And that is why we do not use the exemptions in Article 4A or 5B of the REACH restriction. Article 4A covers microplastics for industrial use, and as we understand it, is therefore not relevant for the production of consumer products such as cosmetics. 5A covers microplastics that are permanently modified during the intended use, for example, when you apply it to the skin. But these substances, they are still microplastics, but they are just exempted from the ban that will come into force in Europe in 2029. Also, there are no longer any exemptions for film formers in sunscreens. So this all means that all microplastics will have to be phased out. And then I just also want to mention that criteria generation 3 is still valid for a little over 2 years. It expires in February 27, so there is still some time to phase out microplastics. Then we have the list of excluded substances. It has been expanded. It now includes 1.4 dioxane with a specific impurity limit of 10 ppm in both leave-on and rinse-off products. It was planned to regulate the content in surfactant raw materials, but we changed this based on the received consultation responses. And now it also complies with an SCCS opinion. The list now also includes bisphenols and bisphenol derivatives belonging to a group of 34 substances, where ECHA has assessed that further regulatory action is needed due to their PBT properties. So the whole group is on the list now. Cyclic siloxanes are toxic to both human health and the environment, and there is also concern that linear siloxanes will slowly degrade into smaller units that exhibit some of the same properties as the cyclic ones. However, linear siloxanes are less toxic in themselves, and they are therefore exempted in the one products that are intended to be left on the skin and not rinsed off. Then there is an updated definition on endocrine disruptors. It now refers to ED lists 1, 2, and 3. And then there is a few substances that has been removed from ED list 2, but are still suspected endocrine disruptors, so they are added independently on the list of prohibited substances. The definition of nanomaterials is so far unchanged, but we expect that when the cosmetic regulation is revised, they will change to the new EU definition, and then we will adapt as well. Titanium dioxide is also added to the list, but there are exemptions for products that are not spray or powder or products that can be ingested. And this exemption is valid until the appeal case on the CMR classification is settled. And after that, we will decide if the exemption is made permanent or not, depending on the result of the appeal case. For surfactants, the exemption from anaerobic degradation for emollients is removed, as we can see that there are anaerobic biodegradable alternatives. Also, it has created some confusion in this requirement that most emollients are actually not surfactants. The exemption for surfactants used in toothpaste is also removed. And then there is a new and simpler definition of surfactants. We have received some feedback that it was sometimes difficult for raw material producers to evaluate if their substance was a surfactant or not, based on the old definition. And this new definition has been developed in collaboration with a few raw material suppliers. So we expect that it will be easier to work with for them compared to the old one. So the new definition is any organic substance which has surface active properties and consists of one or more hydrophilic groups and one or more hydrophobic groups of such a nature and size that it's capable of reducing the surface tension of water. The requirements for fragrances is set up in the same way as in generation 3. The allowed amount of fragrance allergens in the product is still 10 ppm for leave-on and 100 ppm for rinse-off. And the allergens are still defined as those that are H317 or 334 classified, and also the allergens listed in Appendix 2 in the cosmetic regulation. But this list has been expanded quite a lot. 45 new substances are now restricted. And we looked into the list and could see that from these 45 substances, 19 are not previously covered by any of our requirements. Another change in this requirement is that there are now exemptions made for aromas in toothpaste if they are not classified H317 or 334, category 1A. Toothpaste or oral hygiene products for adults can contain up to 6 aromas, up to each 1000 ppm in the final product. Toothpaste for children can contain up to 2 aromas, up to 1000 ppm each in the final product. And this exemption was necessary to maintain the possibility of Nordic Swan eco-labeling toothpastes. And please note that it is only category 1A that is not allowed. Categories 1 or 1B are acceptable. Category 1A are the strongest synthesizers, and 1B are more moderate synthesizers. And then if there's not enough data, then it's just 1 without the letter. And the reason that we don't want 1A is that this would lead to classification of the product itself. If cosmetic products were included in CLP, they are not, but if they were, and this is also the reason why the limits are 1000 ppm. For preservatives, we have added a requirement for aerobic biodegradability, and this is done because persistence is considered the biggest cause of concern when looking at the environmental impact of chemicals. Bioaccumulation alone is not enough, and it primarily prevents bioaccumulation in humans and organisms. In organic colorants, carbon black is now prohibited as it is suspected of being carcinogenic. Residual monomers in polymers can cause adverse health effects, for example, due to allergenic or carcinogenic properties, but also other health problems. In this requirement, the limit of 100 ppm for monomer residues in the polymer is unchanged, but the environmental classifications H410 and 411 have been removed as the relevance of the requirement is primarily health-based. But then the reproductive toxicity and endocrine disruptors H362, EUH380 and EUH381 has been added to the list, and also the specific target organ toxicity classifications H370, 71, 72, and 73 are also added. The content of aluminium is restricted with this long list of different product types. It is based on the latest SCCS opinion on safe aluminium content in cosmetic products. For the product types that were not included in this SCCS opinion, we have kept the limit from generation 3 of maximum 17.5%. And this value is based on evaluations that were done by external consultants carried out in the previous revision of the criteria. Then it's the calculation requirements. The first one is environmental hazards. As I mentioned earlier, now ingoing substances with H410 classification and M factor above 1 is no longer allowed. Zinc compounds in zinc creams are no longer exempted. They are amongst the most environmentally hazardous, and in most cases, alternatives to zinc creams exist. But the biggest change in this requirement is that surfactants are no longer exempted. And because of this, we had to raise the limit quite a lot. Before, the limit was 2.5% for all product types. Now there are 3 groups. The first one is soap products. So this is soap, shower gel, shampoo, and so on. And here the new limit is 14%. And then there are the remaining rinse-off products, conditioner, for instance. Here we have a limit of 8%. And for leave-on products, the limit is 4%. For rinse-off products, there is a requirement on aerobic and anaerobic biodegradability. The general limit has been tightened from 15 milligrams per gram to 14, and the special limit for foam soap and solid soap is unchanged, but now all solid bars are included in the same category as the solid soap. For rinse-off, we also have the CDV requirements. Here, the general limit has been tightened from 12,000 liter per gram active content to 7,000. And at the same time, a new limit value has been created for conditioning products. So this is conditioner, hair mask, and so on. And they have a higher limit of 10,000 liter per gram active content. For foam soap, there is a possibility of using the limit 1,000 liter per dose instead. And this limit is unchanged. And the limit for solid soap is also unchanged at 2,000 grams per liter active content. And again, this includes all the solid bars. The last calculation requirement is on leave-on products, and it sets 4 possibilities to comply, which are unchanged compared to generation 3, but the limit value is changed. Now 96% of the product must comply with the requirement compared to 95 in generation 3. Then a few slides on requirements for specific products. And the first one is lip products, toothpaste, and other products that can be ingested. It's still the case that flavors, colors, and preservatives must be approved for use in foodstuff. But now in lip products, the mineral oils, Mush and MOA, must comply with recommendations from Cosmetic Europe for mineral oils. And this is about raw material specifications for safe use. For toothpaste, we now require that they contain an amount of fluoride that is in accordance with national recommendations. The market for fluoride-free toothpaste is growing with products that are marketed as natural, but it's well known that toothpaste without fluoride does not prevent caries, and dental organizations in all the Nordic countries recommend that both adults and children use fluoride toothpaste. But then recently there has been some suggestions that fluoride should be classified as reprotoxic and endocrine disrupting. We don't know how this ends with this classification, but we have also allowed for an alternative to fluoride in the form of hydroxyapatite, which has the same protection against caries as fluoride does. And there are some toothpaste on the market, a few toothpaste with this substance already. For mouthwash, a limit of maximum 0.1% has been set for water-soluble zinc salts, which is based on an SCCS opinion. For decorative cosmetics and hair dyes, 2 more substances has been added to the list of restricted heavy metals. It's arsenic and antimony, both with limits of 1 ppm in colorants. And then one more substance is prohibited in hair dyes besides Lawson, and it's hydroxypropyl p-phenylene diamine, and it's dihydrochloride salt. And this substance is considered allergenic by SCCS, so that's why it's added. Wet wipes, the biggest change in the wet wipe requirement is that the wipe material can no longer be made from plastic fibers. This means that it must be made of viscose, other types of regenerated cellulose or natural polymers. For the requirements on the fibers, the references to the old Nordic Swan criteria for sanitary products and the EU Ecolabel criteria for textile products has been removed, as these criteria are no longer up to date, but they will be reintroduced into this requirement when these product groups has been revised. Until that has happened, wet wipe fibers can only be approved under EU Ecolabel hygiene products and Nordic Swan textile criteria. But then we have also developed new requirements for pulp and fluff pulp, and they are stated in one of the appendixes in these criteria, in the cosmetics criteria. And the exact same requirements will be implemented in the Nordic Swan criteria for sanitary products when they are revised. And this is expected to, I think it's expected to be published around summer this year. Another new requirement is that the use of the do not flush pictogram from the Single-Use Plastics Directive is now mandatory for products that are sold in EU. And this is according to the recommendations from EDANA, which is the trade organization for wet wipe producers. For products sold outside of EU, you can use a correspondent logo or text if you prefer. For sunscreen products, there are no changes in the performance requirements, except that we no longer require documentation for water resistance claims. The protection against UVB and UVA must still comply with the EU Commission recommendations. So UVB protection must be minimum sun protection factor 6, and UVA protection must be minimum 1/3 of the UVB sun protection factor, and the critical wavelength must be minimum 370 nanometers. And this wavelength says something about absorption properties across the entire UV spectrum. It's also the same tests that can be used, but in addition, it's possible to use 2 new test methods that are currently under approval. It's an in vitro test and a test using diffuse reflectance spectroscopy. The requirements on label claims are unchanged, but we have specified them a little bit more in this criteria generation. And then the last slide for me is the products that fall outside of the cosmetics regulation. This is animal products and lubricants, and there are no changes to the requirements, only clarifications on which parts of the cosmetic regulation they must comply with. And now we have also added a new product type, which are lubricants for medical use. And this is, for example, products that are used for ultrasound examinations. The requirements are similar to those for the other lubricants. Fragrance and colorants are not allowed, and the products must comply with the requirements of the cosmetic regulation on prohibited substances, labeling, and claims. And in addition, the products must comply with the EU medical device regulation as they are medical products. Yes, I don't know if there are any questions, then we can take those before we move on to packaging. Yeah.
There's one question coming in saying, hi, can you develop your opinion of the relation between fragrance allergens / skin sensitizers and the environmental protection? This is, I don't know if you have any answer to that in this.
I'm not sure I completely follow the question.
No.
The relation between fragrance allergens and the environmental protection. Yeah, I don't know what I don't know what the question is. Maybe we need some elaboration on that.
Yeah, please, can you elaborate your question? Then we will answer you afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Can you just continue?
Yes.
So now my colleague Maria will talk about the packaging requirements.
Yes. I hope you can hear me. I just want to double check, Lise, that I'm. Yeah. Okay. Yes. So let's move on to the packaging requirements. So the first requirement in the criteria or in the packaging section is called packaging and materials. And the intention of this requirement is to set an overall scope for the packaging requirements. So it specifies which materials that may be used. And then the introductory text to the packaging section state that it's these materials that may be used, but the requirements can, or the criteria can be extended to other formats as well. So if that is something that you wish, please contact your contact person at Nordic Ecolabeling. So the following materials types that may be used is plastic, paper-based, which includes both cardboard, corrugated board, and what is new after the public consultation is also cardboard packaging for liquid products. Then we have reinstated the use of glass, but we have added a requirement that it needs to be or it needs to consist of 50% or more of recycled glass. And also aluminium may be used if it contains more than 60% recycled aluminium. And it can be used either for spray or propellant bottles or for small product sizes lower, well, where the size is lower than 100 milliliters. Yes, and these weight limits for the recycled material for glass and aluminium was added after the public consultation. So if you have any comments on these, again, please contact your contact person. Yes, furthermore, miniature bottles of size smaller than 100 milliliters sold to the so-called HoReCa sector, which stands for hotel, restaurant, and catering sector, is not allowed or may not be eco-labeled any longer. And overall, other metals than aluminium are not allowed as a packaging material. However, if we change the slide, yes, we have added a few necessary exemptions to this no metal requirement after the public consultation. And so the following exemptions are included. Small metal parts in the packaging, for example, springs in a pump or a ball in an aerosol container. These are now exempted. A sealing foil across small openings on, for example, tubes, up to 1% of the total weight of the packaging are exempted. And then metal packaging and decorative cosmetics up to 15% of the total weight of the packaging. So these are the exemptions on metals. Yes, we can move on. So then I'm going to move on to the plastic packaging, or the requirement that we have on plastic packaging. So first and foremost, we have a requirement on separability, and this is rather similar to what was in Generation 3. And it means that components of different materials need to be possible to be sorted separately. So this means that, for example, a cap or a pump made from a different material than the bottle or the container needs to be separable by the end user. So they need to be able, for example, screw it off, or in some other way be able to pick it off rather easy without using a tool. And I need to specify that this requirement does not then cover small metal parts in pumps, for example. It doesn't cover spray triggers or in spray triggers. Labels do not need to be taken off. And it's not applicable for more complex packaging, such as pressurized containers. And here we have included airless. Roll-on, for example, for deodorant or perfumes, and decorative cosmetics. So concerning the plastic that may be used, individual components must be made from either more than 99% polyethylene or PE, or more than 95% polypropylene or PP, or more than 98% PET. So after the public consultation, we have added some exemptions to this. So just to make it really clear that small metal parts or glass parts in pumps and trigger sprays are not covered by this requirements. And then we've also added that other plastics than the three mentioned may be used in spray nozzles or pumps if the density of that plastic is higher than 1 gram per cubic centimeter. However, PVC and other halogenated plastics may not be used. And then the last exemption that we've added is that closures on PET or squeeze bottles made out of PET may include a membrane of floating silicone, and this is to ensure that the product safely stays in the bottle until you squeeze the bottle. Yep, I think we can move on. More on plastic packaging. We have a requirement concerning barriers. So for the PE and PP packaging, EVOH and silicon dioxide based barriers with a PE or PP binder is allowed. And for PET, only silicon oxide based or other barriers based on PET are allowed. Concerning coloration of the packaging, for PE and PP, we allow all colors that do not contain carbon black pigments in them. So that is the only requirement for those. For PET, we only allow transparent and transparent colored packaging without carbon black in them. However, we have introduced an exemption for this, and it is for oil-based products that contain unsaturated and/or polyunsaturated fatty acids, and these packaging may be opaquely colored because the sunlight hitting the product is going to degrade the product when it contains these ingredients. And then furthermore, we have added a requirement that was also in before the public consultation that the packaging must not be surface treated with PFAS, both on inside and outside of the packaging. Yes, so moving on to our requirement for cardboard and corrugated board. This is pretty much the same as it was as in the public consultation, but we have lowered the limits of how much of the material must be recycled from 80% to 75%. And the remaining proportion must be covered by the FSC or PFC control schemes. Two-sided plastic laminates are not permitted, and also PVC and other halogenated plastics must not be used. And then the cardboard is not permitted to be solid colored, except for white. Yes. So here is a new requirement for cardboard packaging for liquid products that we have introduced. So the main requirement or first requirement here is that at least, or the packaging must contain at least 60% weight paper or paperboard. Yes, and a minimum of 90% of the primary packaging as a whole must be made of bio-based or post-consumer commercial recycled materials, or a combination of these. So that means that both the cardboard and any plastic used in the packaging need to be either bio-based or recycled. We have a couple of requirements on the wood material, raw material, and bio-based plastic. I will not go into details on these because they're rather long and complicated and we are limited with time. But if you are interested, please have a look in the criteria document. And then lastly, again, PVC and other halogenated plastics must not be used. And I want to say, since this is a new requirement that we have added after the public consultation, if you have any comments to the feasibility of this requirement with regards to cosmetic products, please contact your Nordic Ecolabel contact. Yes, I think we can move on to labels and print. So the first
Maria,
yeah.
we have a few questions that we might look into. At least we can see which of those we can answer on this meeting, and some of those we might have to get back on as it's very technical issues. But one of those, maybe you can see it in your chat as well.
Yeah, I'll have a look.
It's, I don't know which slide it is, but it's about plastic packaging.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's from Daniel Key.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just going to read it. Sorry. No, what this requirement means is that each individual component must be made from, and then in this case, it's more than 95% PP. So what that means is that each individual component, either the bottle or the cap, and the material, the plastic material in the cap. So that's what that requirement means. Was there anything else? There was a question on why is the silicone membrane in squeeze bottles allowed for PET but not other materials? And I think the short answer to this is that's the only feedback that we got in the public consultation. We got feedback that it was specifically needed for PET bottles, and we got that, I think, from 3 or 4 different people who answered our public consultation. But if there is a need for other materials as well, please contact your contact at Nordic Ecolabeling, and we can take it from there and discuss. And then there is a question that says, are silicone seals permitted without PP closures? And I don't really, within PP closures. No, since we have an exemption for these was it PET squeeze bottles, the overall requirement is that it's not permitted. And this is also something that we had on public consultation, and we did not receive any comments on it. But again, if you have comments on it, please contact your contact persons, and we can start a discussion. Then it says, does small glass parts like a ball in an aerosol must they be made of a 50% recycled material, or does this requirement concern bottles only? The intention of this requirement is for the packaging, the main primary packaging, so the bottle. And then the last question that we have received so far, it says in the criteria, and this, I think now, Enrico, concerns the label. So maybe I should go through the label requirements first, and then I can answer the last question from Adam.
Yes, let's do it.
Let's do it that way. Yes, so concerning label materials, for PE and PP containers, the label must be of the same plastic type. And here, crossover labels, these folded labels that are used on very small products are exempted because they need to be made out of PP. For PET containers, the label must be of PP or PE with a density of more than 1 gram. No, that's supposed to say less. It says more. 1 gram per cubic centimeter. And for PET specifically, the label, we have a size restriction on the label depending on the size of the product. So for product sizes less than or equal to 500 milliliters, the label must not cover more than 50% of the entire packaging. And for product sizes bigger than 500 milliliters, the maximum coverage is 70%. And we have added, I should mention that we have added in the calculation documents for the packaging requirements, we've added some instructions on how these calculations should be done, and also some sheets where you can do the calculations. And there are also instructions and formulas and examples in Appendix 6 in the requirements. And so for paper and cardboard packaging, the label must be of paper and the glue must be water soluble. And for cardboard packaging for liquid products, labels are not permitted, and the direct print on the packaging must be done with water-based inks. So speaking of direct print there, I think we move on to our requirements on prints. And this is new after the public consultation. So again, if you have any comments on this, please contact your contact person. So the printing inks used must be non-bleeding and compliant with the UPF exclusion policy. And direct print is not permitted except for date and batch codes and unique formula identifiers. And this is the same as before the public consultation, but we have added some exceptions to tubes, to flexible plastic pouches, paper-based packaging, and containers made from aluminium. Yes, should we, or maybe we can go back, sorry, one slide and do the question on, it says, Adam says, in the criteria hand dishwash liquid, it is not allowed with PET bottle and PET label, but for cosmetics, is that okay? And this is something that I just went through. So no PET labels are not allowed at this point. We specified that it needs to be PE or PP. So we can, now we can move on to the WER requirements. Yes. Hold on, I just gotta close. Yes. So compared to generation 3, the formula is simplified and the limits for each package category has been tightened. And we no longer reward the use of recycled material. So this factor in the formula has been removed. And the reason for this is because it allowed for a higher amount of material in the packaging. And since the central aim of the requirement is to lower the amount of packaging used or material used in the packaging, we see it as an important, or we see it as a more important step towards circular economy than using recycled material, which is why we have decided to remove this factor, because we need, or it, how should you put it? It interferes with the main point of the requirement. So after public consultation, we have had a look at the limit values again, and we have eased a few of them after the public consultation, specifically for tubes and for the category called stick and roll-on. And furthermore, we've placed airless packaging in its own category to be able to better differentiate between regular pump bottles and airless pump bottles, as these were in the same category in Generation 3. And lastly, we have introduced the diverse category again after public consultation, just to be really sure that all packaging types can adhere to a category if there is a product out there that we have not been able to cover with all of our other categories. And then lastly, the requirement for dosability and emptying level remains the same as in Generation 3. Yes, I think that was it for me on the packaging requirements. Did we have
Very good, Maria. Very good. We have one question in regard of fragrance that Lisa will answer.
Just before you move on, Maria, I will just take this one question on fragrances. And it has been elaborated. So the question is, the Nordic Swan is about protecting the environment. Explain why you why you limit the fragrance allergens so much. So there are not many fragrances that can be used in Nordic Swan eco-label products. Is it your target to have unperfumed products in the end? And I can answer that. It's true that Nordic Swan eco-label is about protecting the environment, but it is also about protecting the user of the products. So it's both, and that is why we want to limit perfume allergens. And we know that this requirement has been tightened quite a lot, but there is more and more knowledge about substances that turns out to be allergens. So that is why it's more difficult to use perfume in the products. It's important for us to limit the allergens to prevent more people from getting allergies, perfume allergies. So both is important for us. We do not at this moment have a goal of prohibiting perfumes completely, but I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but it's not our target right now. But it is, we know, quite difficult to have perfumed eco-label products with the new requirements. Yes?
Okay. Yes, so we have 2 more questions on packaging before we move on to the renewal process. So there's one question from Christina here that says, sleeves are considered labels, right? In this case, does the surface coverage limit apply or not, since they can be separated from the bottle? This still applies. So the application of this requirement is for the product when being disposed of, and the problem or the reason for this is because when it goes through the sorting, if it contains the sleeve on it, it's going to be really difficult for the sorting, the near sensor to actually find the correct material. And since the sleeve, I'm assuming it will not be removed before the sorting, but rather in the sorting process, this requirement still applies. Yes, and then last question here on the use of small bottles, less than 100 milliliters is prohibited in the HoReCa sector, but is the sale of small solid soaps, for example, 15 grams allowed, always in the HoReCa sector? Yes, I should have probably been a little more clear on this in my presentation now, but I can just read the requirement text that says miniature liquid products less than 100 milliliters sold to the HoReCa sector are not allowed. So no, it does not concern the sale of small solid soap bars, only liquid products. Yes, that was it. So let's move on to sort of a little bit of information on the renewal process and how to apply. Yes, so what you would like to start doing now is looking into if or how to reapply for a license. Yes, so we have created a fact sheet that will be sent out to today, and you can also download it in this in the presentation that you will be sent later today. So first of all, 3 steps. First of all, read the criteria document and closely, because this will explain to you all of the requirements in detail for your Nordic Swan Ecolabeled cosmetic product. Then check your formulation, check it against the requirement, make sure that it meets our chemical requirements. Start collecting the ecotox data, DIN numbers for all your raw materials, material safety data sheets, appendices for your raw materials from your raw material suppliers, etc., etc. This is a lot of work, and it's very good to start as early as possible. And then lastly, collect all of this documentation and you upload it in our documentation file exchange system that we will launch and we'll tell you more about very soon. Overall, if you have any questions, you can always contact your contact person at the Nordic Swan Ecolabel, and they will also be in touch with you to follow up this process more closely. So here you can see the main contact person in all of the Nordic countries. But perhaps you have another contact person at Nordic Ecolabel that you've worked closer with. I don't know, but this is the contact information that you will have close by when you receive the presentation. Yes, I think that was it for our presentation. We have received a few more questions here. And I think, Lisa, the first 3 are for you. I can maybe start by reading the first question. So Ulf Eriksson is asking, for existing products during the transitional period, if you have to make a change for a product, for example, change supplier of a raw material due to market shortages, but the INCI is unchanged and you are not yet ready to apply for renewal, can you do that now?
If you have to make a change.
Yes. For sorry, I could have answered this one. For all existing products, you can make changes all up until the criteria. What is it called? Until their last valid date, which is for rinse-off products, it is the 30th of June 2026, and for all leave-on products, it's the 28th of February 2027.
Thank you, Maria.
Cool.
Great. Then there's a question if there is a specific time frame that an SDS will be acceptable, and I think we agreed that they should be from 21 or newer, because there has been some changes around that year. So anything that is from 21 or newer is being accepted. And then there is another question, the revised edition of Appendix 2, when will that be available? And it's quickly for us to do the changes, but there is a process. We have some criteria editors that need to publish. So I cannot answer for certain because I don't know their work schedule, but I expect within a few weeks we have the new appendix ready. But you can always contact us and ask if it's ready or not. And you can also check yourself on the webpage if those 2 questions have been added. And then another one.
Yeah, I can take this one. It says, hi, will there be a training for the new SharePoint system? So yes, as soon as it's in place, it's been ready for some time, but now we decided to make a little tweak to it. So as soon as it's ready, you will receive more information on this for sure. Yes. And then we have a question that says, when will the Generation 4 be in effect? So the Generation 4 is valid from, when was it? Sometime in November, I think, and we are now launching the criteria. So it is valid. You can apply on Generation 4 as of now. For a new application, you can also begin the renewal of existing products for Generation 3. So it is now, and generation 3 is then also valid for some time longer to be able to ensure this overlapping period where you do the renewal and renew your existing products. So I think that might have answered maybe both of the last questions, because the second one was, when will the new criteria apply for already approved products on the market? So you need to start the renewal process now, but the end of the generation 3 criteria is the dates that I mentioned. So 30th of June 2026 for rinse off, and 28th of February 2027 for leave on. And that is the last date when the current the products that have a license currently will end, or how should I put it? So by that time, you need to have renewed. Let's put it that way. I hope that was clear enough. Lisa, I think we have a question for you.
Yes, there is a question about nanomaterials, the TBPB and MBBT. If those are nano UV filters, which has been evaluated by SCCS, and I think the question is about if we allow them or not. We do not. We don't have any exemptions for those. They are not used very much. We have only seen them in a few products, and we want to exclude all nanomaterials. So those you cannot use.
Maybe we can move on, Enrico, and then we'll see if any more questions roll in, or what do you say?
Yes, let's move on.
Oh, we got one now.
Yeah, okay. You can grab that.
Yeah, I'll grab that while you get ready. If we apply for the new formula for the certification, can we start using the application tools under generation 4? And by application tools, I'm assuming you mean the sort of digital solution that we will be telling you more about soon. Yes, you can. As soon as it's ready, and I hope that it will be very, very soon. So you will hear more from us once that's finished. Yes, okay, let's move on.
Okay. Well, I'll just take over here again. And well, the next chapter will very shortly be a lineup of the benefits that you get from certification with the Nordic Swan Ecolabel. Just summarizing, when you certified, you get a certification for the official Ecolabel of the Nordic countries. You get a very high awareness and preference by consumers. We saw that in the survey that we did, that I presented earlier. We have a high trust in the label, which was also one of the results of the survey. That is a very, very high trust among the consumers in the Nordic countries. We also have, or you have the value of that the Nordic Swan is an independent non-profit type 1 Ecolabel. That's a very long sentence, but what is the essential in here is that the validation and the trust in this Ecolabel is very, very high. And also for third parties that look into it, there will be a non-commercial Ecolabel giving all the advantages that this include. And then finally, it will make your green transition and your green communication easier. You might want to go out and do some promotion of some green claims, and you can actually go a little further if you have an official Ecolabel like a Nordic Swan Ecolabel when you do your green claims. So there's a very good platform for communication also in the future in regard of your green claims if you have the certification of the Nordic Swan Ecolabel. Well, this is actually where we don't have so much more for you today. We might still have some questions coming in. I see there's a little bit in the chat, and there's some colleagues discussing who will be the right one to answer. Maria and Lisa, are you updated? Because we have still time for questions, so please just pump in your questions in the chat, and then we will do whatever we can to to clarify them right now.
And follow-up question on the dates.
Yeah.
And I think, do you want to answer that, Maria?
No, unless maybe you have some more information.
No, I just wanted to say that it's in August, the 31 of August, 26, that rinse off expires.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
My
so
bad. It's been removed.
That one has been postponed a little bit. So it's August 26 for rinse off and February 27 for leave on.
Good.
So I hope that's clear now. And you can produce your products until the old requirements expire. But after that, you will have to have them renewed if you want to continue producing the products with the label on.
Mm.
Yes. Any other questions?
Well, while we are waiting for more questions, I just want to promote this small leaflet, this fact sheet that Maria was talking about, that you can download from our website, and it will also be included in the email that you'll get afterwards this seminar, where we will send you the presentation, of course. You'll also have a link for the video recordings of the webinar, and as I said, a link for this this fact sheet that will help you to go through the procedure of both renewal and new applications. It's a very good guide for you to work for. So please go in and download that one. I don't know if there's any more questions, but we still have some time. So feel free to hit us with. Yeah, there's actually one here, and it's about bottles. So it's probably you, Maria.
Yes. Yeah, so let me just quickly, because I don't have all of the things in my head, so I just want to double check. So the reason is, oh, sorry. Can you give me maybe just 1 second? Apologies.
I can just read the question.
Yes.
What is the reason that PET bottles and PET label is not allowed? Is it the same plastics?
So the reason is that it is not the same plastic as far as we've understand. So it is very, very similar, but for example, it's either so-called CPET or PETG, and both of these are problematic in recycling. It's not compatible with the PET that is used in the bottles, which is generally called PET A or APET. So they are very, very similar, but not exactly one-to-one, and that is the reason why they are not allowed.
It's correct what Maria says. There are different types of PET, and it's another type of PET that is used for the label than is used for the bottle. And the PET stream, the bottle recycling stream, is very clean, and we don't want to pollute that with the PET labels. So this is the recommendation from the experts on recyclability.
So the line of question is long. I think we have answered those that we can actually do right now. Is another one coming in?
Yeah, I think maybe there's a last one here.
Yeah.
Regarding the calculation sheet.
Yeah, I just read it. In the calculation sheet for leave-on products, you should remove water from the formula to see if it's accepted for the degradation of the criteria. In that calculation sheet, the environmental hazardous classifications are also controlled. Should these concentrations be on formula with water or without water? Question mark. I don't know, Lisa, is that one for you?
Yeah, you should put in the formula as it is with water, but just remove the line with the water. So you shouldn't change any of the concentrations. You should just put it in as it is. I hope that's understandable.
And then we have another one. is for you, Maria.
Mm.
Why do you not promote metallic-free pumps and triggers? There's a lot of them on the market.
Yeah, so we tried for the public consultation to specify that metal was not allowed, and in the public consultation we had not included these exemptions, but we got a lot of comments from multiple interested parties saying that they are not able to find these or use such metallic-free pumps and triggers. So that is the reason why we decided to include an exemption, because we got a lot of comments on this. Yeah, that is the reason. We are aware that there are some alternatives on the market, but we got the feedback from other license holders that it's not possible.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, it seems like all the questions that have been popped in here that we can answer, at least right here, has now been answered, and no one else is putting in new questions. So I think that we will end the session here, and thank you very much for your joining the webinar, and we hope that you have gotten more insights into the new criteria and the processes. And I know that my colleagues in the 5 Nordic countries will be more than happy to welcome you when you come with your questions, and there'll be made a plan for your company and your products for renewal and for new application as well. So please take contact to your local office, and they will help you on the next steps from here. Yeah, on behalf of the team, thank you so much, and wish you a very nice day out there. Bye for now. Yeah, bye for now.
Bye. Thank you.